Hello there, my name is Faithful, and today I'll be taking you through Education USA's 5 steps to US study. Before I get into that, I'd like to share with you a little bit more about Education USA. What is Education USA? So, Education USA, first of all, is a US Department of State network that is in over 175 countries and territories, and with more than 430 student advising centers. Education USA promotes higher education to students all over the world by providing accurate, comprehensive, and current information on accredited post-secondary institutions. Education USA is your official source on US higher education. So now that you know a little bit more about Education USA, let's look at those 5 steps to US study. The first step is research. You have to do your research on finding out what college is your best fit. So what does that even mean? There are going to be a couple of questions that you have to ask yourself before even getting to that step of studying in the US. For example, you want to find out, why do I want to study in the US to begin with? What is your why? 2, do I know the major I want to study? Do I know what I want to study? What I'm interested in? What are your interests? Do I know what kind of state I want to go to, or which state? Maybe you know the exact state you want to go to, or maybe you don't. And this is the time for you to do that research. And while you're doing that research, you want to also find out, am I interested in a big, large school, or do I want a smaller size school? Am I interested in a big city, or maybe the country, or the suburbs? What is the cost going to be? All those things have to go into your research, because it's not until you've done your research that we can now look at step 2, which is financing your education. How are you going to finance your education? First of all, you want to look at what can you as an individual and your family or guardian come up with to fund your college education. How much have they saved up, if any? Or do they have any assets that they're willing to sell off to fund your college education? Find out what the answers to those questions are, and then maybe come up with amount X that your parents or your guardians have saved, or some assets that they're willing to sell off to fund your college education, and then look at financial aid packages. Financial aid is very crucial because it's really going to bring down the cost of your college education in the US. And many universities do offer different financial aid packages. But you need to find out the schools you're interested in that you found out in your research. Do they offer any financial aid packages? Do they offer full scholarships or only partial scholarships? What kind of scholarships do they offer? They offer merit-based scholarships, maybe based on your grades and your test scores, or do they offer need-based financial aid? That is absolutely based on what you as an individual will need to attend this university. Do they offer any sports scholarships or music scholarships? Whatever you're interested in, find out this information. How do you find out this information? Most of the time, you can find out this information from the websites of the schools that you're interested in. In worst case scenario, if that information is not on the website, that's okay. Do not panic. You can reach out to these schools, contact them, be bold and contact them, and introduce yourself and ask them your questions. Ask them, I'm interested in coming to the school. I'm so and so from here. Do you offer any financial aid? What is the criteria for me to qualify? Does it, count for international students? Ask those questions. Just contact them. They'll be happy to reply you. And once you know that the school you're interested in can actually offer an X amount of financial aid, plus your savings from your family or whatever they're going to sell to send you off to college, once that adds up, then we look at step number 3, which is your application process. So in the application process, you want to give yourself a minimum of 12 months to apply to the university that you're interested in. 12 months minimum before the start date. Why? It sounds like a long time, right? Well, it is very crucial that you have a minimum of 12 months because it is a long, tedious process. One of the things you're going to look at is testing. Many of these schools will require you to perhaps do an English test, maybe a TOEFL or a Duolingo test. And if they do require an English test, ask them if they accept the Duolingo test because it's much more affordable than the TOEFL. 2, they might require you to do the SAT or the SAT. Find out if you need to do these tests Because if you need to, then you need to now look at when is the registration deadline for all these tests? Where in my country is it going to be offered? How much is it going to cost? For example, here in Rwanda, you can take any of these tests at the University of Rwanda, the College of Business and Education, the College of Business and Economics in Gikondo, right? So you can go there and take any of these tests. And I'll share some of the resources that you can look into to look at different practice tests and that kind of thing. So once you're done with looking at the testing, another crucial part is the essay writing. You really need to perfect your essay writing skills because this is an opportunity for you to tell your story. And the admissions counselors get to really see who you are as a person, as a student, as an individual, besides your test scores, besides your transcripts. So you need to really be good at your application essay writing. Sometimes you need to just write one. Sometimes you need to write several, depending on the school. And the good thing about the application process that you need to know is that once you apply on the Common App, many of the schools accept the Common App application, and you can apply once for several schools. So you don't have to do it over and over and over again. Because you might want to apply to maybe 10 schools or 20 schools. I don't know. It's your choice. So once you're done with the essays, another thing you need to do is think about the recommendation letters. Sometimes you need just 2, sometimes you need 3. It also depends on the school. So these recommendation letters could be from the teachers, could be from your school counselor, could be from your principal, or even a basketball coach. So find out who you need to get recommendation letters from, and then give them ample time to prepare to write you the recommendation letter. Now, if you're from a school that's really large and maybe your teacher or your school counselor doesn't know you on a personal level, that's okay. Give them a resume to help you with creating your recommendation letter. So if you give them a resume, what do you want to have on that resume? For example, your leadership potential, your community service engagement, different activities and things that you've been involved in besides academics. So for example, maybe you won the debate championship last year, or maybe you're your class prefect, or maybe you started a community project in your neighborhood that has really helped maybe tutor kids from poor schools in English or in their math. Whatever it is, have these things on your resume so that it will help your recommender write a good recommendation letter for you. So once you're done with putting all those documents together and sending your application, please make sure you note the deadlines, such as sending your applications in good time. Make sure you take your tests in good time before the deadline. And a good thing about the tests, now that we've been through the pandemic or living through one, many schools have opted to be test-free, test optional. So that's another good thing you need to find out about in your research stage. Find out, do I need to take any of these tests to begin with? It might be a no. And then there you have it. But if you need to take those tests, you need to know early so that you don't miss any deadlines and you have ample time to study. So step 4, we look at visa application process. So once you've applied to maybe 10 or 15 different schools, then you'll start getting back admission letters, acceptance letters. And once you do, if you have admission letters from like 5 schools, you can go to all of them, right? So you need to still make that decision, where am I really going to go to school? And once you make that decision, that school will send you documentation that will help you in your visa application. You can apply for the visa online, and then once you meet with the consular with your appointments that you've gotten from your online application, then you go through that process. And once you have your visa, we go to the final step, step 5, which is departure, preparing for your departure to go to school in the US. And with this step, we usually offer a pre-departure orientation where we take you through a few things that you need to know before you get into that plane. So for example, 1, your flight ticket. Do you have your flight ticket? Has it been booked and paid for? Do you maybe need to quarantine now that we're in an interesting time, the pandemic that we're living through? So do you need to quarantine? Because that might be an extra cost. How many COVID tests might you need to take between here and actually your destination? because again, that's another extra cost you might need to think about. Do you have a visa? Do you have your documents from your school? All those things. You want to make sure you have all of that. If you're going at a time when it's very cold, do you have the right clothing for cold weather and all of that kind of thing. So once you're done with your pre-departure orientation, we wave you off and wish you a safe flight. And we look forward to hearing back from you that you arrived safely and that you're going through your orientation week and things are going well. So those are the 5 steps to studying in the US. I'll share some of the links over here, like collegeboard.org, petersons.com, commonapp.org, ets.org, and cheer.org. And that last one there is for you to find out if whichever university you're interested in is actually accredited. Because you don't want to waste money going to school for 4 years only to find out that it wasn't accredited. That's going to cause you a lot of problems and a lot of frustration. So you want to make sure whichever university you're interested in is actually accredited. So that's the 5 steps. There you have it. There is my contact information as well. And voila, I look forward to hearing questions from you. Thank you for listening.